Hola. So I did say in my previous video that I am making use of my remaining hours. I'm trying to get the information out before I get too swamped with school. So in my last video I shared about the documents that you need to apply for your student visa, and in this video I am going to talk about the time that it takes to process the visa. So the longest part of the process is, for me, getting the documents together. And the longest part of getting the documents together was proof of financial support, because I didn't have in my possession all the cash that I needed to show. We were working with, I think, 35,000 Canadian dollars, and that's a little bit more than what immigration indicates that you need to have. You don't want to have the exact amount. Okay, so that's just a recommendation, it's a guide, but it is suggested or recommended. I am recommending to you that you need to have a little bit more than what they are recommending that you have. So for us, we were working with $35,000, and that would include the tuition, the $10,000 that the immigration department says you should have, and then a little more just for buffer. So we were working with 35,000. So that part was the longest part of the gathering of my personal documents, because I did not have that kind of money in my account, and I suspect that most persons who are going to apply for the visa will not have that kind of money lying around. So you need to, if you're thinking of coming over to Canada maybe next year, or, well, let me say for next year, because if this year, then you would have had to start putting things in place already. But try to put together as many of the documents that you will need to have. Try to do them as quickly as possible. Don't wait, because you don't know where in the process there will be some delays, and it can affect the time that you plan to come to Canada. So I was very deliberate. I knew I was coming, so I started from last year, August, September, thereabouts is when I actually started to think about and put things together. So I was monitoring the site of the university to make sure I was ready when the applications were open for the fall of this year, 2023. Okay, so you have to make sure that whatever you're doing, you don't delay on any part of the process, because there are parts in the entire process that may have delays and you have no control over that. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. A lot of persons would ask, how long does the visa office take to process your application? There are a lot of factors, maybe not a lot of, but there are some factors that determine how long your visa will take to be approved. Some persons, I hear, their visa was approved in 10 days. Some persons say 1 month, some 2 months. Personally, mine took about 2 months. After I submitted the documents to immigration, they confirmed they received it, and they were processing it. It took 2 months, because I was physically in Japan, and then my application was processed in the Philippines, because that was the nearest location. Canadian immigration office. That was the nearest Canadian immigration office to where I was. So where you submit your documents has a lot to say about how long it will take for the documents to be processed, because if that office has a backlog, which was the situation for me, then it means that your application is going to take a longer time. So it actually happened that by the time I left Japan, or when I got to the point where I had to leave Japan, I still had not gotten my visa, and I submitted it in what I thought was reasonable time based on the information I was seeing online. But and I was hoping that I would have gotten it before I left Japan, because I didn't know what would have happened if I left Japan, if if they would cancel the application or anything. I didn't know any of that, but I had to leave Japan, and so I left, and I just prayed and asked the Lord, just whatever, just take control of this. I mean, I have to leave. I just had to leave, and so I left. So I actually received my visa while I was in the US. So here is something that I want persons to understand too. If you're in a situation where you cannot stay in the location where you actually applied, in the country where you applied for your Canadian visa, then you just indicate to the office, you indicate to the Canadian Immigration Office that your address has changed, and they will give you information regarding how to collect or to pick up your visa. So like I said, I collected mine while I was in the US. So I had changed my address from my Japanese address to my address in the US, and so when they contacted me, they gave me the information as to which offices I could contact to get the visa. So the actual time it took for the approval of the visa was, for me, about 2 months. For some persons it might be shorter, it might be longer. So what I am recommending or suggesting that you do is make sure you have adequate time as buffer to ensure that if there is a delay, that it doesn't impact you and the final timeline that you have for coming to Canada, because that is something that I was really working towards. I wasn't concerned about the time for me to come over to Canada, because I believe I had sufficient time for that, but I was concerned about not getting the visa before I left Japan. So just make sure that whatever you're doing, you don't delay on any part of the process. Even as I'm sitting here recording this video, I'm having a challenge. A friend of mine just reminded me today that I need to pace myself, because once I know I have something to do, I want to get it done. I just want to get it done and forget it. I want to finish it. But things are not always that easy, doesn't always work that way, and so I'm learning to pace myself. But with this process of immigration to Canada, where you have the liberty or the opportunity to do things in the present, do not delay. Don't delay, because another reason too is that every day there are changes to immigration. And so you might be sitting and waiting and thinking, okay, this project or plan they have going on now is going to be there when I'm ready. So, I'll just take my own sweet time. You never know. The programs they have changed all the time. The last I heard most recently is that there might be some changes to the numbers of students that they will allow to come to Canada as students, because there is a challenge with accommodation for students, and I can tell you about that. That was a big part of not my headache. I mean, I wasn't too worried about it, but it was stressful, so just whatever you're doing, just do it now. Okay, so that's what I want to share in this video. I might record another video just so I am up to date with the information that I need to share. So yeah, let me just end this video and then I'll record my final video for today. Okay, So I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.